Oh yeah, I don't believe there's anything really. I'm hesitant about this schedule, mainly using this textbook. I mean, are you confident? Yeah, personally, I feel like you guys should be able to. I mean, the majority of you are making platforming games anyway, and that I feel like that's a good starting point. Um, I'm hesitant to make a group poll about it because I'm sure everyone wants to make a group project. But if you guys make a group project, you guys are gonna have to make something great, you know, because I know how those group projects go. I've been in them, whereas like one person's working on art, one person's working on level design, one person's working on coding. This is a programming course, right? And I want to see those abilities more than your art and your level design and everything like that. I get it. You can get more things done in a group, but I want to make sure that everybody in the class is comfortable with code, at least reading it, understanding what's happening, and being able to edit it. That's why I made it an individual assignment. I mean, if I get enough people yelling at me saying, you know, I need more time, I need more help, if there's really that outcry of, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, I need other people to work with me in this group, I can consider it. We have enough time, right? We have more than half of the semester to work on this. So again, and I'm here to work with anybody who's having an issue with a particular mechanic and stuff like that. But again, I want to see you all succeed, right? I'm not here to just say, oh, make a game yourself and just deal with the consequences. This is for you guys. I said it in the beginning. It's pretty easy to pass this class, but that's not what this is about. This is about making a game that you want to progress with in the future. So again, I'll take it under advisement. I mean, maybe I'll create a poll about making it as a group if I see that you guys are really struggling with the coding portion of this. But again, it will need to be something knocked out of the park. And I feel like the majority of the games that I saw, there are tutorials out there that do a lot of the basics that you guys want to do. So I don't think it's asking too much to do this on your own. But if everyone feels differently, please let me know. Okay, that's fair, Allison. Um, yeah, I know it's a long process, right? I mean, even in a large group, it's going to be a long process. I'm not expecting you to get this done next week, for sure. Um, and I think I'm going to spend the rest of this semester kind of doing some tutorial stuff because I'm going through the textbook, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, that it's kind of repetitive, and it's going over things not in a very game related way. Like when I took this course, it was going through an example project that you kind of developed on, and going through this, it kind of goes through Unity. It kind of meshes the ideas talked about in programming in with Unity, and yeah, I really don't like it either, to be honest too. It was assigned for this course, so I couldn't really make a suggestion in time for the semester. It does have value in terms of programming language. like understanding the concepts. Yeah, a lot of info. I feel like you do need it, right? Because programming goes beyond Unity. Unity has some big training wheels to it because everything is already, plugged in, and there's a lot of, assets to help you. You take away Unity and try to make something on your own, that's daunting, right? You wouldn't really, know where to start with something like that. So, and going through the textbook, it's good to learn those things, especially if you're running through code and you're just trying to figure out what's going on. But in terms of, getting up and running with it, it's pretty difficult. I agree with you guys on that. But yeah, I'm going to try to do more tutorial stuff. And I'll take suggestions that you guys may have on how to do something throughout the week, so I can get it ready for for the next week's lecture. And I feel like that's easier to learn things, right? Seeing how things work, and then you can tweak it yourself and, use it the way that you want to. So I hear someone typing. How do you agree? That's a good question, and I will probably post the rubric soon for the game now that we're out of the weeds on the design doc. Essentially, it's going at the end of the semester. We'll probably just share screens, and then you can show how your game works and the different things that you worked on and stuff. And then you'll submit the code base and everything like that. What I want to see is just what mechanics you got working. How you did it, kind of. I'm not gonna go through your code and say, oh, you should have done this instead, or optimize it in that sense. But I just want to see, you made an attempt. You got at least some of your mechanics down. Yeah, exactly. Can you show me, how much time and effort you put into this? That's essentially what I'm looking for, that you understand, how to instantiate a game object, or, how to work an if statement. How do you get, input, that kind of stuff. It's more about the understanding of it, and then how you can, advance it further later. So, it's all about just trying to complete your game idea to the best ability that you can. If you have a win condition, you have a loss condition, it runs in some capacity, you'll probably be okay. Don't quote me on it. But I just want to see some effort being put into, a final game. It's probably not going to be polished up. You have time. Like, I've seen some really great projects done in this amount of time. But it takes a lot of effort. It's just going over things constantly, and I'm not looking for the prettiest game either. I really don't want you guys to focus all of your energy on art. Like, if you get like good animations working, you have smooth animations, but if you have that working in Unity, and then activating those animations within Unity, that will really go far. But I'm not necessarily looking for polished assets and that kind of stuff. Absolutely, yeah. If we run into issues while working on a game, besides something else, you can stray away from a game design document. I firmly believe that a game design document is a living document. Your ideas change, your tastes change. You play test something, it's not necessarily fun. Absolutely, you can go a different direction with it. I just wanted to make sure that you guys had some sort of plan going into it, and you took time to think about what you actually needed to get this done. Um, you know, and a lot of the documents that I read, you had, you know, you had the general concepts, but you didn't have the details of like, okay, I have this enemy. What does this enemy look like? What is the movement of the enemy? How much damage does he do to your character? How much damage do you do to that character? You know, how is he affected by A, B, and C? You know, um, these details shouldn't be left to when you're in the development stage, because you're going to be sitting there, you know, in front of your keyboard, like, well, what should I put this at? You know, you should have those mechanics, you know, thought up and designed already, so that you can just throw it into code. So, but yeah, you can absolutely go different directions with it. Um, any other questions about the game, class? Anything you'd like to see me improve on? Made it dating sim. Well, I mean, you can veer. I mean, no, I have nothing against dating sim. Don't get me wrong. That's not, the genre isn't what I'm hesitant about. What I'm hesitant about is doing a complete, you know, 180 into another direction. Veering from a game is one thing, but then scrapping everything and starting fresh, I'm a bit hesitant about, because then that's more time you're taking into, you know, designing something completely different and starting fresh. So for the time being, I would say stick with the concepts that you have. But if there's mechanics that you want to change that would, you know, improve your game, I'd say go for that. Um, so I think I touched on this. Comment your code. Ideally, yeah. Again, I will go through it, you know, just to see what's going on. But, you know, commenting is kind of there for you guys, just so that you can understand, okay, this is what's happening here, that's what's happening there. Yeah, it's usually advised to comment on your code, just for organizational sake. But that's kind of a good segue. One of the things that the textbook talks about in the beginning of chapter 6 is pseudocode. And this will probably come in handy when you're first developing your game. So essentially, it's like a shorthand for how the logic of your game will go. So let me see if I can get my whiteboard thingy up here. I think someone said something and I missed it. Yeah, that's another good point. If you're in a group and they don't know, you know, what your code means, that could be very frustrating. Also, you know, if you work on something, say, you know, you go to another job and somebody else is picking up what you've developed, they have no idea what you did because you didn't comment it. So it's very useful. Check on the progress. Maybe you will do kind of like a, you know, a sharing in the beginning of the course, or beginning of the, I keep saying that, in the beginning of the week. Maybe a check-in. Let's see here, we're at week 6. Week 9. I'll post an announcement so that everybody on the same page. But yeah, like a check-in, just to see where you're at, any questions you may have, or, you know, so if you need suggestions on something. So, okay, I think I'm still sharing this, this whiteboard. Right. Anyone see the whiteboard? I don't know if I'm going crazy or not. No? You see nothing. Huh, okay. Try it again. See a line? All right, cool. So yeah, so essentially what pseudocode does is that you're thinking through, you know, your thought process, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. You're just kind of using a combination of regular vernacular and then programming. So let me see how they have it set up here. Okay, so yeah, the way that they have it is at first they set up some booleans, which you guys remember what those are. Honestly, I don't really know why they call this pseudocode, because I mean, you're declaring things, but anyway, we're just going to go with what they got here. So you have these 4 booleans: move forward, move backward, move left to right, which will have you know, true and false equivalencies. So then, in order to figure out what move forward is, you keyboard input W, input W. So this is kind of where the lines are blurring, because this wouldn't run in regular code, right? But you know, whatever keyboard input, or the code for keyboard input W, we put it into a boolean for move forward, and then you go right down the line for all of them. So you're basically figuring out how the logic of your movement will go. Like I'm thinking AWSD, but then they had like switched it around. Okay. So essentially you're saying, okay, if you have a keyboard input for AWSD, make that variable true, right? And then after that, if move forward, updated position, C equals updated position, C plus 0. So essentially, it's checking the Boolean that we've created and then set to true if one of these inputs have been pressed, and then updating the position of your game object by 0.1 in whatever coordinate position it needs to be in. And again, you do this for all of the positions. So yeah, being that you're going backwards, you do minus 0.1. But you can kind of get the idea of how this flows. You don't have to go through all like AWSD. Typically, what I do is kind of just one of these, and then just do for all positions. right? You don't have to go through all of them because it seems kind of tedious. It's kind of like a shorthand for you to understand the logic of how, you know, things are going to be set up. And it's pretty useful, especially in the early process of your development, to kind of understand where you need to go, what needs to be declared, that kind of stuff. Any questions about pseudocode? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just, I mean, this isn't in Visual Studio or anything. This is kind of just for you to organize, you know, specific functions or whatever you need before actually, you know, putting it to code. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go into some of the examples that I made. Let me draw my Unity here. Okay, you guys should see Unity now. Okay, so I made this kind of small project here, and it's doing a couple things. I'm going to remove this for right now. Okay. So I have this blue square, that's player, and then I have this green one called power up. We'll get the power up in a minute. But you don't have to do pseudocode. No, it's not something I'm going to be looking at. It's mainly, again, it's one of those things that helps you organize the logic before you start programming it. So no, it's not going to be a requirement or anything like that. It's just something useful for you guys to do in order to organize your code better. So I believe I've gone over movement once before. I just kind of wanted to do it in a 3D plane for you guys. So I have this script called player movement. I'm just going to run through it real quick. So much like the pseudocode that we went through, we're getting inputs from keycode.arrow, right arrow, left arrow, up and down. Right? We don't really necessarily need any Booleans for Unity. You can just see if this is true. You could technically do bool, what is it? Going right, and then you could say going right. Oh wait, you guys probably can't see that. Ugh, sorry about that. One of these days I'll learn. Screen one. All right. Cool. All right. So let me do that again for you guys. So yeah, right now we just have an if statement that just checks for an input of key code right arrow. So if you wanted to go through the pseudocode that you created, you could also do going right equals input. Input, please. There we go. That get key. Good. Oh, there we go. And then throw that variable into there, and it's essentially the same thing. So yeah, so we have the transform.position, which is basically calling the game object's position. We're going to be, it equals the same position that it is now, and then we're adding on to it. That's what that plus equals means. And then transform direction, which is a built-in function that essentially takes vector 3 And you can call vector3 that right, which I believe is a vector3 that goes 1, 0, 0. It's just a pre-built vector3 that you can use. You can put in whatever variable that you want in there. It's just an easy one to use. Now, if I had just left this and didn't have all this stuff at the end of it, what would happen is that the update is called once every frame, right? So it's like 30 frames a second, something like that. So it wouldn't go very fast. It would kind of stutter, and it wouldn't look very good, and the movement wouldn't be great. So you have to multiply it by time.delta time. So essentially we're saying move 1 unit per second rather than every 30 seconds or whatever it is. And then not only that, you can multiply it by a speed so that it goes even faster, right? And then I have this speed variable here, which is up at the top. If you go over to your player object, which is script is on, you can set whatever speed, where is that script? Yeah, whatever speed that you want. And you can just mess around with it so you can go as fast as you want, all that stuff. And then again, you do this for every direction. So just to show you what that looks like, look at that. You move the arrows and you go every direction. And then I believe if you change that to 10, really moving out. You weren't supposed to see that. But that ruins the surprise for the next one. So yeah, nice easy way to do movement. If you're doing a 2D game, you would only need to do left and right, because you're only on one plane. Now below that, I'm sure you saw this keycode.space. So space typically is for jumping. This is a kind of a small jumping mechanic that you can use. So first, we're going to go into this if statement. The first thing you have to do when you want to do jumping is that you have to take into account the ground, and then you have to make sure you don't float into space. So the first thing you have to do for your player is give him a rigid body, right? Because that'll say that you can't pass through the ground. So then here we're adding a force to the game object once the spacebar is pressed, and it takes a vector3 dot up, and we also multiply a force much like we did with the speed. So essentially right up here we have another variable called force, and then we can multiply this vector dot up, which I think is 0, 1, 0, I believe. And then you multiply it by how much you want it to be. The if statement. The if statement is there in order for you not to do multiple jumps in one time. So if you're up in the air, you can't hit jump again and then just keep jumping up in the space. If you need a double jump, that'd be good for you. I mean, you could set whatever you want the height to be, or whenever you want it to be, depending on that if statement. So we'll take a look, see how that works here. So see, I have my force here at 100. Doesn't go very high. Pop it up to 500. Whee, bump, and it stops. So, and then if I jump and I try jumping multiple times, it won't do it until I'm at the ground. Okay, so any questions about movement and jumping? Again, it's pretty simple. Yeah, jump will still work for a 2D game. Again, and you can also, you can move and jump at the same time. Works fine. Again, with a 2D game, you just won't have the ability to go forward and backward. I mean, 2D games, you could, potentially, but you know, usually you stick to one axis and then you can jump like that. Out of here. Okay. So I'm sure you guys have seen what the green box does when I hit it. I'm sure you can gather from what it's called is power up. So essentially, this is kind of like a collectible tutorial. Vector 3 and Vector 2. The Vector 3 takes in 3 float values, whereas Vector 2 only takes 2. So when you're running into 3D space, you need X, Y, and Z to move around. Vector 2 would be, I believe, just X and Y. I think even in like a 2D game, people still use Vector 3. Pretty much anything in Unity, as far as I know, uses Vector 3 even when there's Vector 2 around. But yeah, this is like a little power-up thing that we want the player to grab. So how do we do that? So we have this script called collectible. It's pretty simple. We've created this this function called onTriggerEnter, which is a pre-built function, and it's taking a collider other, which is essentially the game object that we're colliding with. So if other.tag equals player, so your game object can have tags that are associated with it. This player here is not only named player, but up at the right below where you've named it, is the bottom, it has a tag. You can create multiple tags, but these are like kind of pre-built in. And so you just put it as player. So if whatever game object has a tag of player, destroy this.game object. Essentially, it'll remove the game object from the scene. Right? So run it, move into it, boom, it's gone. And then you can see in the scene that the actual object has been removed. And of course, you can add extra functionality to give your character, you know, extra stats or whatever you need it to be. So that's a good way to, you know, differentiate your objects and also, you know, remove them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create that cube again that I removed at the beginning, and I'm going to call it spawner. I don't think I need anything else other than the scripts. Okay. So as I'm sure you guys can figure out, spawner essentially spawns game objects. In my assets here, I have 2 prefabs, which are just 2 different cubes with 2 different colors, enemy 1 and enemy 2. And then we can look at the script here for spawner, which is here. We have a couple of different variables that we play around with. First is a game object array of enemies. So basically, so that we can create as many enemies as we want within this array. Spawn values, spawn weight, most least. We'll get into these. It's probably better just to go into it. So let's ignore the start for a second. First, we're going to get into this IE enumerator weight spawner. So essentially, it's just what's called the coroutine that you can run through the start. Again, the tutorial that I had, for some reason, used this, and I think it's just because of the yield return, which I don't think you really need. But anyway, so just look at it inside of this function. You have this wait for seconds, and essentially suspends the coroutine execution for the given amount of seconds using scaled time. So essentially, it's just a built-in function that waits. And then we use start wait, which is the variable that we have here. So we can essentially have set whatever the start wait time is for the variables to spawn. Then we have a loop here. And essentially, this loop will continue to go because we have this variable called stop. It's just a Boolean variable called stop, not set to anything. And if you remember, a Boolean automatically is set to false within, I believe, C#, I believe, by default if you don't set it. So while this is false, which is pretty much all the time, run this loop. So as we go into this loop, we have rand enemy, which is an integer. And then we're using a math function, random.range, which essentially gives you a random number between two numbers. Here we have it between 0 and 2. So next we have this new variable called spawn position, which essentially we're creating where the new spawn position is going to be. So again, so we're creating this new vector 3. First, we have to do the x value. So being that we want this to be different, again, we can use a random range of spawn values.x, like minus spawn values.x and then spawn value.x to give us a variable position within x. And then 0, we don't want to change anything at all because we don't want it going up into the sky or anything like that. We just want it to be on one plane. And then we do the same for z. All right, and then once we have that spawn position, then we go ahead and create an enemy using that spawn position. So the way that you do that is you instantiate enemies at rand enemy, which is this random value that we set with spawn position that we just created. And then we add the transform point and then the rotation to it, just in case the positions change and stuff like that. And then we wait, essentially, until the next one. So, and then in the update, we set what spawn wait is, because this is what's being updated as the game goes on. And then it's a random range between whatever we set between least wait and most wait. At the beginning, as the game starts, we call this coroutine wait spawner, so that this just keeps going. So this is still continuously running, but the positions change based on these two variables. Right? It's a little complicated, but then once you go into Unity here, look up the spawner, and then you look at the script, you see all the values that you can change. So most wait, we'll put that as 1.5, 0.5, And also we have the stop, so we could stop it at any time we want, right? Because once you check this, then that returns true, then it'll stop spawning. So we don't really need to mess with wait, start wait, spawn wait, or anything. It can just be 0, because that'll change anyway. So let's go ahead and run this. Oh, come on. Maybe you do need to change it. Just wait. Huh. Oh, spawn values. That'd probably help. Oh, and also I need to, yeah. So I forgot to set these. So you have your enemy, you have to set a size, right? So you have, let's say, size value of 2, and then you have to tell it what game objects you want to spawn. So you go into your assets, 1, and then 2. All right, and now it should go. Oh, I think I need to back up the camera. It is spawning, you just don't see it. Why is the camera all weird? Oh my goodness, what am I doing? All right. They are being created. I mean, you can see on the left that they're cloning. It's peculiar. Of course, I just had this going. Oh, they're it's interesting. Here's that suppose. No. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So you can see they're making 2 different types of the enemy in that spawner, and of course you could put a player movement index outside of array in the console. Oh, maybe because it's supposed to be 1. Yeah, I think that's it. Try like 10, 10. Yep, there it goes. Again, yeah, it's randomly placing them, and then also randomly creating different enemies. Yeah, I'm looking through the book to see what other things we can do. Oh, I wanted to mention this at the beginning of the class. It's it's not sponsored by any means, but I really think you guys should. Should take a look at this because I think it'll help a lot of you guys out. Anybody familiar with Humble Bundle knows that they have some really good packages for pretty much anything, like photo editing, video editing. Like they have packages like every month that come out, and it's a pay what you want, and then not only that, you can pay whoever. Class the other day. It's not just assets though. So Mtree, which is tree creation, which is awesome, but also it has Unity Learn Premium, which is $100 subscription that you're paying $15 for, and it has some really good tutorials about player movement, a whole bunch of stuff. So I mean, a lot of good info in here. It has the Ultimate Guide to Game Development with Unity 2019. Has a lot of really good content for $15. I mean, sometimes Humble Bundle doesn't have good stuff, but I really recommend this one because I mean, just the Learn Premium is worth it in my opinion for $15. So yeah, I mean, they have other advanced things like volumetric lighting and a whole bunch of different things. So I just wanted to plug that really quick. Again, not a sponsor, but I like Humble Bundle a lot. I think it's a really good tool to use. So and I'm just looking through the book to see. It's very fragmented in what they talk about. Any questions? I didn't think I was going to breeze through all this that quickly because I thought you guys would have questions. But I mean, that was the only real tutorial that I had for you guys to look at. Yeah, I mean, it's talking about references and stuff. It's like all the same stuff. And you're talking about classes, which we've gone over. I did notice a handful of you guys didn't turn in the assignment 2, creating a class assignment. And I mean, from the assignments I looked, everyone who turned it in seemed like they had a good idea of how classes worked. Was there any confusion, any questions about that? I'll see if somebody types something in there. I know it was a short class, but I think I'm gonna hold off here and kind of switch over to, what you guys, want to get into, any topics you guys want to talk about, or any other types of tutorials you'd like to see. It's kind of just an open office hours. I know it's Saturday. You guys probably have better things to do. And Tuesday I'll go through some more stuff. I'll set up another tutorial here. Nobody has any burning coding questions? Well, I'm gonna be on probably till 3:00. Oh, you can ask. I'm sure somebody else has the same questions you do. You shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. Well, now you have to tell me. No? Okay. Well, if you don't feel comfortable, you can email me. I'm stick around, or you can. I think you can actually send me a private message on here, and I can respond privately as well. But yeah, if you feel more comfortable emailing me or however, feel free. Yeah, I'm just looking through the schedule right now. Game optimization. Yeah. So yeah, I think that the rest of this semester is probably going to go a bit different. Just more tutorials, more things that you can practically use, rather than me just telling you how a class works 10 times. And again, if there's anything you guys specifically really want me to touch on, send me an email. There's a discussion forum for questions or comments. If you don't like how I have these lectures, let me know. I'm here to help you guys, and I'm going to see you all succeed. So yeah, absolutely, you can use tutorials. Oh, sorry, see, that was private. But yeah, just let me know what kind of format you guys would like to see, because clearly this textbook is not cutting it. I think it's just causing more confusion than answers. And maybe I'll just build a a tutorial scene or project, so you guys can just download it and mess around with it. That might be good for you guys. Yeah, I don't want to switch textbooks in the middle of the semester. as I'm sure as helpful as that would be, but I think we've covered enough. Oh yeah, as a new one, yeah, definitely. I will definitely give some feedback to Sujin about this textbook, and definitely recommend another one. Also, I'm sure majority of Unity has a certification that you can take if you're for pretty much any of the disciplines. You have, like for art assets, for programming and stuff. After this course, I would recommend looking at the Unity Learn website and seeing what it takes to get that certification, because that's a pretty good way to see where you're at and improve. I don't know, that Unity Learn website is clutch a lot of the time. But again, yeah, a lot of Unity. I've learned in textbooks like this before, but then like you go online and you can find so many more references, so many tutorials on how to do something, and really just run with it. So I would highly recommend doing that. I don't want to see cookie cutter games, obviously. I'd like you guys to kind of venture out and see how you can make it different. But I don't need you guys reinventing the wheel. Lighting questions, yeah. Lighting's always weird. That and particle effects I always found was tough. Yeah. Also, I know you mentioned that I finished your drafts response or critiques and everything like that. I think you guys should be good to send the final draft by Tuesday. I don't think that's asking too much for you guys. If you need more time, just let me know. Send me an email. I'll be sure. I just don't want you, spending all semester on a document. I'd rather you guys, start developing some stuff. I just wanted you guys to get a good handle of what you guys were working on. And it seems like you guys, for the most part, know what you want to do. You have some ideas. I'm sure you guys will scale it down or scale it up depending on how, you guys feel about it. And if you guys need help on like where to start or whatever, let me know. So, okie doke, I'll be here. You guys don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. But if there's anything you guys want me to go through or talk about or whatever, I'll be here in this chat. Okay. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see you Tuesday. See ya.